My name is Arir, and the night my wife didn't come home started with a message that felt like an ice shard through my chest. Don't look for me. I need time. It was 11:48 p.m., our daughter was asleep in the spare room, and the house smelled of the dinner I had reheated and then left untouched. I stared at the screen until dawn, replaying the small, ordinary things that should have comforted me, the way her hand fit in mine, the way she'd hum when she cooked, and realized that worry had been a slow leak in our marriage that I'd never learned to patch. I tried the patient route first. Calls, texts, the quiet plea of a voicemail. No reply. On the second day, a different text came, short and almost careless. I'm with someone. Don't come. The words were a slap and a permission at once. She'd chosen a door I hadn't been given the key to. My throat closed. I didn't run to confront her in the heat of shame or fury. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table and made a list, precise and clinical. Dates, missed calls, the name she used when she thought I wouldn't see, receipts, and a string of small lies rearranged into a pattern I couldn't ignore. I photographed conversations, saved locations, printed screenshots, because revenge, if it is to be useful, must be durable and lawful, not a theater of rage. Over the next week, I watched and waited like a man who had finally decided to stop being a ghost in his own life. When she returned, late, eyes rimmed with exhaustion and a voice practiced into apology, I didn't throw the evidence on the table or beg. I listened until the words, "I made a mistake," landed on the counter between us, and then I did something neither cold nor cruel but steady. I called a lawyer and I booked a therapy consultation for our daughter and myself. When she asked why I wasn't louder, why I didn't storm or sob, I told her the truth. I'm tired of being someone who forgives without consequence. That stunned her more than any screaming match. She had expected melodrama. What I gave her was a plan. The lawyer helped me understand my rights and protections. The therapist helped me frame the conversation with our child so that she would never feel like a pawn, and the legal files I compiled suddenly made my quiet resolve visible. I filed for temporary protective orders around our finances and ensured key accounts could not be emptied in a vindictive hour. I gathered witness statements from friends who had seen the late texts, from the neighbor who'd seen her leave 2 nights in a row, and from colleagues who had noticed her change. I didn't publish anything on social media. Instead, I created a private file that was airtight, not vindictive. This was about safety, clarity, and moving forward, not spectacle. When she threatened to take our daughter, I had already photocopied school records and custodied relevant evidence and arranged for an emergency consult with a family attorney. When she tried to shame me in front of friends, I quietly sent polite notes to mutual acquaintances explaining I'd chosen privacy and protection over drama, and most of them stepped back from gossip because I never gave them the salt they sought. The real sting of my revenge was not humiliation but consequence. I stopped being the forgiving man who would absorb damage to keep peace. I reclaimed our home by insisting on transparency, shared calendars, open phone access for agreed mediators, and couples counseling that I insisted be recorded in our legal file. She balked, then tried to manipulate with apologies that smelled of performance. I allowed the counselor to test those words for sincerity and to report to the lawyer what they observed. Slowly, the options she thought she had, careless lies, secret nights, the assumption I would beg to stay, were closed by methodical, legal, and emotionally sane choices. I didn't seek revenge through petty exposure or violence. I pursued it by reclaiming my dignity, protecting my child, and insisting on accountability. In time, she realized the cost of her disappearance. Not the gossip, but the loss of the home she had taken for granted, the trust she had burned, and the man who would no longer be silent. The day the judge signed the temporary custody agreement in my favor, I felt no triumph, only a quiet relief that the slow erosion had stopped and the rebuilding could begin. Months later, when the dust settled, people who had once whispered assumed things about me. They came to see a man who had regained himself without spectacle. My revenge had been simple and permanent. I took back the narrative, protected my child, and refused to be diminished by someone else's recklessness. That's the thing about the quiet revenges, the ones built out of paperwork, truth, and consistent boundaries. They last longer than a shout, they teach lessons without cruelty, and they free you to build a life that doesn't rely on someone who walked out in the night and thought a text could erase years.